Welcome to the Women on the Rise podcast. This is where we talk all things entrepreneurship aimed at female entrepreneurs. Whether you are just starting out or you have a 7 or an 8-figure business, we bring you the greatest tools, techniques, and ideas for inspiration for your business. I also interview some of the world's leading entrepreneurs from all over the world to hear about their businesses and what they've done to grow and scale their businesses. I welcome you to join us in our journey for Women on the Rise. Welcome to another episode of Women on the Rise. And today I have a special guest who has come all the way from London to our studio in Dubai. And I love it when we get visitors when they are in Dubai on business, and I make sure that I grab them to come and talk to me about all things entrepreneurship. And today we have none other than Zoë Chapman, who is the founder of a fantastic product called Kitty Whiz, who's going to tell us all about it and her adventure into entrepreneurship. Welcome to the show, Zoë.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you. And actually, you're someone who I love to watch Dragon's Den on YouTube videos. And it's just one of those things. And I came across your video that aired recently. And I was like, she is so smart. I really liked your pitch. And I liked the way that you came across on Dragon's Den. And I thought, I'm going to reach out to her because as she's in London. I'd love to connect. And then when we connected on LinkedIn, you were like, I'm coming to Dubai.
Just by chance?
Yeah.
What are the chances?
What are the chances? So before we dive into everything, why don't you tell everybody a bit about yourself and what your business is?
Sure. So I'm Zoë, and I started the business nearly 4 years ago in the pandemic. It's all based around a product I invented when my son was younger. He was potty training, and I couldn't find a product that was compact enough that I could take around with me, just put in the bag. He constantly needed the toilet. So I used to carry around a coffee cup, my one treat of the day as a single mum. To start the day, I'd go and buy myself a coffee, and I would keep the cup, and I'd use the cup throughout the day for him to go to the toilet in the car, avoiding the trees because, you know, it's really embarrassing.
Yeah.
The wee trail and or behind cars and everything. So a bit of dignity with a coffee cup and then empty it down drain. It was just so, and also I was looking after my dad as well, who was wheelchair bound and then eventually bed bound as well. So I had the two ages whereby if I'm taking them both out, which was a challenge in itself, I couldn't get into disabled toilets with my dad and a toddler and whatever. So I knew it was a product that was needed throughout the ages. But I started with the kids version because I knew that was kind of, when you start out in business, you ideally want to be your target audience. Yes. And you want to go for like that low hanging fruit type thing. Like, I know as a parent, this is a product that all parents need, and it's like a no-brainer product. So let's start with that. I had a network already that I'd built over a few years within the parenting product market. So that meant that I could go to them, whether it be for the best factory or for the best shipping or for the best, I could call on these friends to say, okay, what do I do with this? Like, and so.
And you never had a business before this was your first
I ran my dad's
entrepreneurial
business.
journey.
So when I was 19, I've always worked from a young age. We grew up very poor. So I've always, if I wanted something, I needed to work for it. Even down to when the ice cream van came round, and I would never ask for the money. All the kids would run. But if I did, my dad would say, it's coming out of your wages. Because I would work for my dad at the weekends, cleaning, moving. He owned a recording studio, so I was carrying drum kits around and taking bookings and things like that from a very young age.
But I also think, as a mum of 2 kids as well, that I've always insisted that my kids work because I always worked I think my first job was maybe when I was about 12,
Yeah.
delivering papers, because
Yeah.
again, and I always felt it was so unfair because my friends always got money from from their parents, and my mom and dad were always like, if you want it, you're going
Yeah.
to have to work for it. And I'm so grateful for that because it's given me the work ethic, and I've done
Yeah.
that with my kids as well. Like, you want it, you go and have
And I
have a
wonder if
job.
any of those kids that you're saying went to the ice cream van, are any of them entrepreneurial? Or are they probably stuck at an office job, 9 to 5, that monotonous life whereby they're waiting for the weekend to come? I feel like when you're living a life where you've kind of grown up with the hustle and that kind of fight to want or need to have better for yourself, but you
Yeah.
knew that it was going to be down to you, even from that young age, instilled in you from then I think that's what's going to drive you forward. So luckily I did. Luckily I was working at my dad's business all those years, down to I'd help him with the accounts and everything. So
But what a great grounding for one day having your own
100%.
business as
Well,
well.
it actually came into, so when I was 19, I was at university. I just got into Westminster University, doing computer science, and I was just like, couldn't believe I'd even made it to university given my background. I'd already been homeless at 16. I wasn't living at home, so I was living in a hostel whilst doing my A levels. I was in an abusive relationship. Like, everything was going against me of why I shouldn't have got into uni. So when I did, it was like, oh my God, I've made
Just
it.
goes
I'm
to
doing,
show how amazing you are.
well, no, determined.
Determined, but also pretty phenomenal. And I think for us as women, and I see this a lot with my friends who are entrepreneurs as well, is that oftentimes we don't see how remarkable we are.
We downplay
ourselves.
everything.
Downplay it.
That's a lot of the reason why, not to stick up ahead, but that's a lot of the reason why investment in women is so low, because when you're pitching as a woman, we think about things very logically, very carefully, there's so much strategy and planning, and whereas guys will be like, yeah, I can
they just rock up and do it, right?
I can turn this 10 million, I may have £1 now, but I'll turn it into £1 million tomorrow type thing. And
the
there's
investors
no risk.
are like, take our money.
Yeah. And they'll sell it, but then women will be like, wow, so I've got this roadmap, and you've got a very clearly defined goals, and you understand, you've got the risk assessment down, and everything is just so. And, a lot of investors are men themselves. And with the majority of people investing this money are men themselves that want that kind of like thrill and then they're going to invest their money in a guy that comes in and sells them,
totally
the dreams.
The dreams.
Yeah.
And the unicorns and the rainbows. And
that's where it comes from. And that's why. And that's changing. But I think in general, women always downplay their abilities. We're always tend to be, not always, there are a lot of women that are really good at knowing their worth and, that kind of thing. And they will be like,
but it takes time, and even I know business owners who have 8, 9-figure businesses who still have that doubt, who still have the questioning. I mean, that's human in a way, but I think that we as women are a lot harder on ourselves than what we need to be. And I always get reminded of that when you think, like, would you talk to somebody else the way that you talk to yourself?
Exactly.
And you wouldn't, but it's like, still, we're so mean to ourselves. Like, we have to stop mean girling ourselves, because
100%.
it's crazy how mean we can be to
I could give
ourselves.
a talk about, which happens a lot. And I look back on that talk, and someone said to me the other day, I'm doing a talk when I come back, and the founder of the business that's running the networking event, they remember one of the first ones that I'd done, and they were like, I'd gone in there saying, I don't know why you've got me on the panel. I don't know, really downplaying it. And they were like, you told the whole room how to strategically, step by step, build a business with nothing. And I'd just gone on, hadn't prepared anything, you know, even today, like I said, just ask me whatever. I think it, and I said to them, the reason is because if you live and breathe your business and you've followed the steps yourselves, and you've lived every single moment, not delegated anything, not cut any corners, then you've lived through that experience. So I don't need a piece of paper to tell me what that is.
Exactly.
I'm living with the effects of that, you know, whether it's the burnout from doing something or the mistakes I've made. Everything has made me who I am today. So any question you ask me, whatever type of business they're running, if it's a product-based business, I'm going to know more about that than a service-based business. But funds, especially for females, it's the way that we go into business and that the whole thing of women downplaying themselves. I think sometimes it actually works because it makes you more conscious of potential mistakes. It means that, you know, like we were saying before, the mistakes are what make us, and we're going to make
100%.
With hiring, with people that you bring into the business, people you trust, you know, like that is going to happen. But the whole process is and now the advice, I can't go back in time, right? I can't go back in time and say to myself, Zoe, don't do that. Or Zoe, ignore that opportunity because this is the opportunity you should go for. And you'd save yourself so much time, so much headache, so much burnout, whatever. You can't do that. But what I can do now is help people that are coming up behind me.
And that, and also as well, learning from those mistakes that we've made.
Definitely.
I always say to people, because a lot of times women will be really hard on themselves about that. And I'm like, look, it's like you paid for a training course. Okay, you know, that maybe cost you a lot of money, but if you went to Oxford University or London School of Economics, you would have paid just as much time and you learned exactly that same lesson.
And networking is, like I always say, networking. Like I started out doing a lot of incubator courses. So I would move from one to another. So in the first year of my startup, I was constantly in these, and that's the talk I'm giving when I get back. I was one of the first of the cohort for a program called Foundervine, and they were really early on. It was during the pandemic. No one could leave their house. Everything was on Zoom. Everything was really new in terms of how you were doing. And they were one of the first to do it like that for people that had no money. And they would help people. They had a range of mentors, but the main thing is that networking from I still speak to people from the very first one I did, Rebel, where they really, their selling point, the way they got me was, you don't need a business plan to have a business. They were anti-business plans.
Yeah.
And I was like, as someone with ADHD that hates form filling, I'm like, I can do that.
Yeah.
Because I'd had a business loan application. That application sat minimized on my screen for about 18 months, maybe more, because the deadline as a startup had run out to get the British business loan, the startup loan.
Right, yeah.
The standard stuff. And I also knew that I would probably get rejected anyway. That's probably part of it. And that plays into that whole imposter syndrome type thing, us downplaying themselves. Because I know loads of businesses that failed within 6 months and they still went for that loan and they got it. But for me, I was like, number one, I hate the filling forms are just really, really hard for me. I do them because I have to, but I find it really, really difficult. Selling yourself and it is really difficult. But the logistics of a business at that point, I felt, was so out of my reach. It's the one reason why I hadn't done it before. So to then have to fill out a form and convince a bank to give me a loan for something that I would have to, convincing a bank to give me a loan for a product as a single mum living in the way I was in a 1-bedroom council flat, and with no experience, no savings, no mortgage, nothing for them to say, well, if she fails, we can get her money. There was no way I would be able to pay that money back if I failed.
Yeah.
So I was way too high risk to get anything, which is why my only option was credit cards. And
so I was
Yeah.
going to ask you how you got the
That's how I
funding
did
for
it.
your business. So you didn't apply for loans
I
or
couldn't.
grants.
I wouldn't have been applied. I to the point where I had a styling business account, and I said to you before the show, like, I didn't even have money to buy my own stock before I did Dragon's Den. So I was begging banks to give me an overdraft so that I could at least get the manufacturing done before the show aired. So at least I knew it was coming and I could send out to customers and do a pre-order situation. Even Styling Bank, that's like the bank for businesses.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even give me an overdraft.
Really?
Nothing.
I mean, banks are all over the world, and our members consistently have this complaint that it's hard to get funding.
Yeah.
It's hard to be able to get that funding and investment that you need, especially if it's a product-based business. Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
Unless you have like credit history or an asset that they can go, oh, we'll take your house or we'll take your car. And if you don't have that, but then listening to you say that, I also think she can't afford to fail. You know, and this is something that I wish that they would have a bit of the human factor, and why I like some of these alternative lending providers that are starting to crop up. And it's always my dream that I want to be able to find something globally that we can do in Female Fusion, that we can provide those loans or that support or connect people who are willing to take risks on women, because women normally pay back their loans.
Yeah.
Women normally succeed with the money and the investment that they get. But when you've been handed a rough hand of cards in your life, that it's harder to get that initial start. But then when you do, and you are successful, or you have those people supporting you, that it can make such an impact.
And that's the thing. Like, again, from being in all of these incubators and programs and immersing myself into so many different networks of different businesses, and I've seen which businesses fail and which ones succeed within the 4 years, right? And I'm talking like everything from service-based businesses to apps to products of anything. And it's really interesting because it is the ones that have come from something really hard, a really difficult life. You haven't been handed anything. It is that thing of like, I've got nothing to lose. I've got but everything to lose. And I need this to work. Like, I need this to work. And that grit and determination is what really pushes them through, because I think I really warn people, like, obviously I think, you know, if you've got a passion in something and you want to start a business, but so many people start a business for the wrong reasons, and they underestimate what it's going to take.
Totally.
That's first of all the biggest mistake I see. The fact that people think that it's some kind of like way of having a lifestyle, or like
I sit by the beach and run my business for 2 hours a week.
Oh my God, the amount of times I'm just gonna go to Bali and work from Bali, like, or the amount of business I've seen is just like, if you can do that, there are people that do that, but that is not the way that it's gonna work.
Especially in the beginning, right? And I see this in Female Fusion, because we have people who join sometimes who think that they join Female Fusion instantly, that's going to make their business successful. And I'm like, no, Female Fusion is a low cost membership. I deliberately keep the price low, but it's up to you to go and make those connections and to talk to people and make use of the resources. And you're going to be working hard. Like, it is not, people look at me today and I'm like, that is 30 years of me busting my butt
Yep.
and working 18-hour days, 7 days a week
Yep.
because I wanted it. And I have never, ever said, you know, I'm going to work 2 hours a day or 2 hours a week. And
I'm going to work it round my lifestyle. That's what people think. I can work it round. Don't get me wrong. I needed to do that to work around my life.
Yes.
As in my, because I had so many health related issues that I couldn't have got a normal job. Even if I was one of those people that could fit into it. I've been like the square peg round hole type thing. I feel like with me. And also as a single mum, I don't have someone that's going to do the school run for me.
Yeah.
I don't have someone that's going to take care of him if I've got to go to here or that. Well, you know, because he's sitting downstairs waiting for me to do this. He's with me all the time.
But it is a gift to be able to have that. And sometimes, because I hear as well from other entrepreneurs that they feel this guilt about I'm working and I'm not able to do this and that and the other thing. But then also what you're surrounding your child with, and my kids have never known anything but me owning businesses. And I did a podcast interview with my daughter last year. I want to repeat it again. But I asked her, I was like, what do you think? And she's like, no, I think it was like so cool. And, you know, I know sometimes you couldn't be there for everything, but I just love that, you know, you're doing all of these interesting things. And, you know, when I need you, you're there and you can take time off. And it's nice that I've been able to give her those memories because
100%.
when they're younger, you feel the guilt.
The mum guilt is
the mum
just...
guilt. And also as well, you know, like seeing other mums who are like, I don't have to work. And, you know, I am going to be on the PTA at school. You're like, that's amazing. Like everybody makes their choices. And I think being an entrepreneur is not easy, but it's also, if you can run a business and be successful at running a business, what a gift.
Oh, 100%. Like, definitely. And that's the thing, like, there are definitely pros and cons. And if you make it work, then it's all fine.
Yeah.
Right? That's the goal.
Yeah.
And then you're like, all those sacrifices, because I feel all that mum guilt is constant.
Yeah.
I feel awful that he's had to come second to even just like one of those things where it's like, Mum, it's 9:00. We haven't eaten dinner. Please can you? And I'm like, it's a school night and I haven't, or like me serving up the burnt dinner. I'm sorry, I forgot about it because I was on, you know, or just anything. But then I make sure that the really important things, I'm there
for.
If he's got an issue, I mean, he went off with a family from the hotel the other day and they said to me last night, they were like, he was just talking about you all the time, and he said to us, you know, I can talk to my mum about anything. We do everything together. And he was just so complimentary. I was like, oh,
you're like,
for you.
Really? Because
thank God for that. Because at the time, a lot of the time, they feel like, you're like, do you hate me for doing this? Like everything I've put you through, the stress and that's what I mean. I don't think people understand. There's so many times where he's got out of bed and I'm doing the school run and I haven't actually been to bed yet.
Yeah.
And when he's got, but yet when he's, you know, he's a preteen, if he's got an issue, it could be really menial and I haven't slept, but his whatever issue it is, that has to come first. And there's so many times where I'm just like, I don't want to be that person who's like, I'm just too tired. It's just like, that's the choice I made.
Yeah.
I made the choice to do this. And it was a case of, I don't want him to live the life that I lived, of my dad who followed his passion. Because he was a musician and he obviously loves music. And he opened one of the first rehearsal, I think it was the first rehearsal rooms for bands in Camden Town, which is, you know.
Oh, cool.
So this was back in the late 70s, 80s. He was in the era. He was in the era where he could go to a club and be playing somewhere in London and Mick Jagger would be in there, Jimi Hendrix would be, that's the kind of era he was in.
Wow.
So he had that, and he had to give up touring and stuff like that to have me and get married to my mom. And I think he wanted to hold on to do something in music and not. He was the same as me, square into round peg, that
Square
analogy.
peg, round hole, yeah.
He's
yeah.
the same thing. And so because his passion was music, he opened the studios. He then did the recording studios as well. But it made no money. And we were constantly like, he had to spend the same amount on shopping every single week. There was no deviation. There was no holidays were spent with my grandparents by the seaside. It was really everything. The tax man was always after him because they were like, how are you affording to live as a family of 4 on that little money? And they never believed that he really did make his own lunches to take to work. He really did.
And how did you ever work out like how he didn't make money? Was it because he wasn't charging people enough?
I think he wanted it to be affordable because he was a struggling musician as well. So he wanted to make it affordable. And I think, yes, that's probably a big reason. And also because he was passionate about it. And also you need him to do like a music studio. Like when I look at them now and I look at because that's the business I inherited. And if I'd have been me now and what I would have done to the studio to make it what it would be, I can see that now. But in those days, you were left with very basic things. So smoking, for example, was a massive thing, right? So I know because I was picking up the cigarette butts after everything. So you'd have a closed room like this.
Full of smoke.
They book them for 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
Doors closed, everything's soundproofed. And you're smoking. You're drinking beer, so there's beer everywhere. I used to clean up white powder, which I didn't know they had talcum powder in. Obviously, I know now that I was not sweeping up talcum powder, and they're enclosed. They come out sweating and stinking and all the rest of it. How nice can you make that space? You're going to need a lot of money to keep a space like that. You can't have a 14-year-old cleaning up and expect it to stay pristine. And so you've got to, and then if you do want to have it pristine, then you can charge the money, but it doesn't work like that. So unless you have, so that was what he chose. He chose to be able to almost, goodness knows where those bands went from Camden to be.
It's quite cool. He probably had some really
you don't know who
big
would have
names who came through there.
Like the bands he recorded, but he did it because that was his passion.
That's amazing. And I mean, it's amazing to be able to have that, to grow up with that, and to learn that as well. That really kind of gives you that entrepreneurial wisdom and the drive. I'm curious as well with your business. You came up with the business idea in the pandemic. You had a need. You were struggling with this with your son, and when you were describing all of that, I remember, and I think as well, boys are harder to potty train than girls.
Yeah,
because I remember.
You would think the opposite, but
you would think
they're just a bit more lazy, I think.
Yeah, I think my son was probably like well over 3 before I was able to potty train him, where my daughter was like 18 months done,
so
didn't want nappies.
In many ways. Yeah.
And I remember back then, like having to carry like these big potties around, and you'd stick it like in the boot of your car, and then you would he'd have to sit down like hidden by trees, or you'd hold up a towel so he could use the potty. And
how demoralizing
right?
Make them sit on a seat in the middle of it's really
just ignore the people walking past. Well,
and now when I see that, I'm like, I just slip them a card.
You should. I can hook you up. Yeah. So how did you come up with the idea? I would love to know a bit about so you've got this idea based on the coffee cup first and creating the prototype and how you did that. Because a lot of people think about having an idea, but don't know how to have
Everyone's
it from being an idea. Everyone's had an idea.
Like everyone's like, oh, that should exist, or what?
Right.
Do you know the amount of emails I get from people that say, if you just did this, or if you just did that, or whatever, and I'm like, you do that.
Yeah, go.
You do that. Do you know how intricate and how long it's taken to just to perfect what the version that I have now? I've got another version in the making anyway, but just to get to the point where it ticks every box. Yeah. So as a parent, I needed it to be compact, number one. So I needed to find a way I mean, it's literally that small. You can see it's that small. And you think about, so I need it to be compact, first of all. I need it to be leak proof, because if I'm putting it in a small bag.
Yeah, you don't want it spilling over in your handbag.
No. And we all know as mums as well, how many water bottles have you bought that say they're leak proof? They all leak.
They all leak.
They all leak.
Yeah.
And so I knew that in itself was going to be a huge challenge. So compact, leak proof, a bit of, and discreet, to be discreet. Like, so that's why I designed it so the spout holds up, it curves, so it's higher up at the front to give a bit of privacy from the front.
Yeah.
Boys, it's great because it stops the splashing, because we all know unpredictable aim is as a boy mum.
Yeah.
And then for women, for girls, now for women because I've got the adult version, but it just scoops beneath the body. So again, splashing. For those of us that don't like using public toilets, you know what that is, or anyone that's tried to do what they call a wild wee, you know that these things get messy.
Yeah.
So it's those kind of things that I wanted to prioritize. And then the other thing is, every toilet product on the market is made from plastic, cheap plastic. So with a potty, you buy that for a matter of months while you're potty training, and then you dispose of that plastic. Where's that going? And the people have to buy multiple potties as well, because you want one for the car, you want one a certain one at home because it's more engaging, but you want to throw away one, you want to give one to the grandparents, the nursery, whatever it is, that you want to keep that consistency when you're so desperate to potty train them. And then a compact one, then you have one that goes on a toilet seat, and it's all plastic, huge plastic that you're going to use for a matter of months, then throw away.
You're bringing back all of these memories for me, Zoe. I'm just
haunting,
having all
isn't it?
these flashbacks, because I remember when I finally got my kids potty trained, I was like, never again.
Yeah.
That was one part.
And not many people want a secondhand potty. Nowadays, people have secondhand things, and it's not so much of a thing.
No,
like, we have
then,
so many apps. People do clothes. It doesn't matter if you could afford something. I think a lot of people go and search for it.
Yeah.
So it's not so much, but still.
So how did you design it? Did you sort of map it out yourself, or did you work with?
At first, it was just all hand drawn. Okay. So the first design was all hand drawn. Made the massive mistake of sending that to a factory in China, but then ripped me off. And then the product, they changed it slightly to make it look really weird, but then that popped up a few years because I couldn't afford to pay for it. So I'd done loads of research really early on when my dad was still alive, and my son was like a toddler, like when I literally just had this hand-drawn design. And back then, again, it wasn't that easy. Now, I know I sound really old by saying, the internet, but social media wasn't as big as it is now. It wasn't as accessible. It was literally, you Google. I remember Googling like how to manufacture or something like that, and it came up with this one company that said that they do things with Dragon's Den, and that they had some kind of connection to it. And I was like, that's the one. And I sent through my pitch, basically, essentially, for the product and the idea and all the rest of it. And they were like, it will cost like, I don't know how much it was, £7,000 or something like that. And you need to get your IP, and this costs this and that costs that. And I'm like, I'm a broke single mum. What? So that's done. But by that point, I'd sent my design, like it was out. What can you do? And so years later, like I said, so just before the pandemic, I had a back surgery. So prior to it, I could barely walk, screaming in pain every day. Mason was helping me get out of bed, get my crutches. Like, it was bad. This miracle operation I was rushed into emergency surgery, and I came out and I was like pain free. I could walk, I could sit down, I could do stuff without being in pain. I mean, it's never going to be perfect. I'm still always got to be careful, and there's lots of things I can't do, but it was like this moment where I was like, well, what is it that I've always wanted to do, because now I need to do it. And one of the things was to make sure my product is on the shelves of Boots, and all the, you know, the stores where it should be.
And
Because
it is on the shelves of Boots,
not quite
right?
yet.
Not?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
That's to come. It should be. Everyone's like, why is it still not there? You've done Dragon's Den. You've got 2 dragons. Why is it still not on the shelves? It's just not that simple. Especially when people don't realize I'm actually on my own. So people assume that I've got a team. They assume that I can kind of I have access to.
That you've got people.
And then
Talk to my people.
Yeah, even when, like, last night I was answering emails. I shouldn't be, I know, but answering emails at like 1 o'clock in the morning to customers, and every single time they would say, "Oh my gosh, I didn't either or both. I didn't expect to reply so quickly, or from you." And I'm like, who else? It's the website chat. I probably shouldn't say that because I've got like horrible messages.
No. Everybody who listens to the podcast are so nice.
Oh,
so
yes.
if you do get messages, it's going to be
lovely.
all of our lovely members and listeners.
Oh, that's good. Oh, of course it is. But if I was to do it, if I was to do a podcast, you just never know.
Yeah.
Because some people I've learned are not supportive. You can't please everyone.
You can't please everyone. And this is hard when you have your business, right? Because your business is an extension of you and you love it and you put so much of you into it. And when you have somebody say something mean, it hurts, especially in the beginning. And
still now.
It's, I found that hard. I've had a number of businesses and I set Female Fusion up in the pandemic. And it's the same thing that if somebody says something like, it didn't help me, or I hate Female Fusion or something like that, like we very rarely get that, but you do once in a while.
That's the thing.
And it's like, because you know how hard you work, how hard your team works, that I'm just like,
you don't get to say that.
Yeah, but now I also look at it and go, I work as hard as I can. My team works as hard as they can. Yeah. We always try to do it with the best of intentions. Yeah. Maybe you don't always get it right. We are open to receiving feedback. But I don't look at feedback anymore.
Yeah.
I've stopped doing it because I found that it really upset me. Yeah. That, you get like 99.9% would be like, this is amazing. I love it so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
and then one person says something mean. And a lot of times it's because of them or they're going through something, right?
Always.
But then it's like, it just makes you feel like crap for the rest of the day. And that's why I'm like, I'm not reading it. And I've said to the team as well, I'm like, unless it's something which is super critical that I need to know about, I don't want to know.
It's the same. And once that happens, I've only been here for 4 days. It's already happened twice where I'm like, I should not have. As in, like, it'll be one customer that said they needed they're going on holiday. They needed their Whizzer this day. And I'm like, I went last week. I went through all of this to make sure that they got it. Didn't charge them for the extra, but really went out. I just arrived here as well, so I'm there like, it's okay, I'll help. And then we're on bank holiday. It's bank holiday in London, today. In England at the moment. Yeah. So Royal Mail, they're not the best anyway. I then demanding literally yesterday, I want a refund. You lied. You didn't send it. And I'm just like. If I'd never answered you, if I'd have said, you know what, I've got my out of office reply on, I shouldn't have responded. I shouldn't have responded. Or equally,
I hope you didn't offer a refund, did you?
I'm gonna have to. I know, but
no, because she's gonna have that product delivered.
She said
to
she's
her.
not gonna. No, she said she's gonna send it to let the Royal Mail, because she'll be on holiday and she's just never gonna pick it up. That's what she said. So
you'll have to wait until you receive the product back.
And that's the thing. Yeah. These people will do things like that. I've had another one today where a woman used the wrong credit card. So she bought a Whizzer and she didn't want to pay on that credit card because it was registered to someone else or whatever. So instead of sending me an email and saying, please, can you refund this and I'll buy it on another.
Oh, don't tell me she filed a complaint with the credit card company.
Yep, and said it was a fraudulent claim. So then it's been going on for months now, despite me sending them screenshots of me texting her and showing them the messages that says exactly that. It was her mistake.
And you could have just
I
done
can
a
prove
refund.
she's got the product. She's been using the product, loves the product, probably using it all the time. But now I'm getting all the fees and the charges, and I'm not getting the money for the thing. But that's what I'm saying. So again, that's another thing about being a female founder. I feel like if that was a guy, I
they
just
don't care. But this is where we need to start being more like this. And I've been really trying to do that. And that's one of the things we were talking. I haven't done a podcast interview on this yet, but I spent a week on Necker Island. And one of the things that I came back with from being in Necker Island was you have to let go. Have to let go. And it's really hard. And I bet so many women listening to this are probably going, yes, that's me, because so much of us is tied up in the business and we feel like the business is not going to run without us. Now, when I travel a lot already, but when I travel a lot for business, I'm still kind of having Zooms with the team or saying, I'll be like, oh, that's okay. I'll like jump in and do this or I'll do that. And I deliberately said, the first 2 weeks of May, when I go to Necker Island, I am off. I'm not talking to people. I'm not posting on social media. I'm just going dark. And do you know, in May, we doubled our revenue in May over April. And I was like,
what?
That is the universe telling me right there to get out of my business and focus on what I'm good on and let my team run the business. And, you know, I thought that we're so scared of doing this. And I've had so many people say this to me. And when I was on Necker, one of the great things is having the conversation with other female founders.
Yeah.
And every single one of them who had like the 8-figure businesses kept saying, Jen, let go. Get out of your business because your business is not going to scale unless you have other people running it. They're like, your job is the vision. Your job is to be talking to people.
Yeah.
Your job is not the day-to-day.
That what I'm talking about.
Right. Because you should like not even care. Now, the credit card thing makes me angry because it's just, it makes me so angry as a small business when I see people do that. And because it hurts a small business. Like, I don't know if a lot of people know, like we're sponsored by Stripe globally. And so we do a lot of work with Stripe, and our members get credit with Stripe as well. So they don't, their first $27,000 whatever the local equivalent is fee free. So they don't pay the Stripe fees. So Stripe is amazing with small businesses. But I'm always asking them questions as well about like, well, what happens if this happens or that happens? So they were explaining to me, for example, the chargebacks has nothing to do with them. So what happens is the chargeback will go to Visa or MasterCard or Amex or whoever the card provider is. Yeah. And they're the ones that make the decision. And I was told that almost all the time they side with the customer. Now, there's a few times where the business wins, but most times they'll settle with the customer. And then their line is that if they have ripped you off, then that is up to you to take it to small claims court, but they don't want to be involved. Yeah. And so that's up to you to do. Yeah. Which is really frustrating as a small business because you're like, didn't I already have enough stuff to deal with?
And just when, especially as a small business starting out, as a startup, every penny counts.
Of course it does,
Like I said, you've already started. Like, I remember the times where, like in that first year, and I'd get like, say, like a celebrity or an influencer would be like, oh, I really want a Whizzer. And you're like, oh my God, this is it. Someone's going to post about it. Da, da, da. But I've only got like £3 in my account to send the postage or whatever. And I haven't got any milk or bread. And I've got to make that decision. Like now that influencer or a celebrity could easily pay for the product first and foremost. Yeah. Or that, even if it's not someone big, like it's a micro influencers, because actually micro influencers do great job for small businesses if you get the right ones.
I think
the wrong
micro
ones
influencers are better, right?
Definitely so good. Especially for the small business when you haven't got much. So I would 100% do that. But the risk is that you give the product and then, like if you're doing a gifting thing, like, and then they don't post, right?
Yeah.
So then if you've got like, say for example, a £20 product, then you can kind of get away with that if you can cover it. For me, the only thing of value I had was my product, right? So if someone's coming and saying, yeah, I'm going to post about it, and you have to think about, right, okay, let me look at how many followers that person's got. If they post, and even if they sell, say, a few Whizzers off the back of that, then it's paid for. It's fine.
Yeah.
The problem is that when really at the beginning, when those when the funds are so tight, and like I say, I'm counting out the pennies, right? And my neighbour's buying us the supplies we need, and I feel awful for Mason, and it's that sacrifice. So I remember one time this celebrity, a big reality TV person, she was like, yeah, can you send me some? 1, 2. I sent her every colour because I was like, I know what this can do. One post from her, and that's I'm out of the red, right? Because I've seen it happen. Didn't even tell me she'd received it. She reads. I'd DM her and be like, "Did you get it?" I know she got it because I did track delivery, and still now nothing.
That's so rude.
But that thing happens all the time. So
all the time.
I cannot tell you how many influencers and celebrities have a Whizzer. Like, no. I can run through. People always say, oh, you should send it to X, Y, Z. They've got one. They've got one. But that's the thing. It's like you can't, it's all these things in business. Like I would get so excited by things that, oh my God, this is it. Those moments, like I've got a meeting with, I remember like the few times I used to pitch all the time before I did Dragon's Den. I was always pitching for investment. And I'd be like, oh my God, I've got a meeting with this person. And, I'd be telling Mason and my neighbour, like, oh my God, this has happened, that's happened. And I look back on those moments, and in a way, I feel really stupid for thinking that was going to be the thing that made the difference, because I knew the disappointment when it didn't happen. And I almost feel sorry for myself to think now, and I look at how excited I was by everything. But then equally, it's about learning.
How you learned, right?
Exactly.
Because the one thing, and I said when I introduced you, is I thought that you gave one of the strongest pitches on Dragon's Den that I've seen. And I was really impressed by you. It was like, I thought that you had a really interesting product. You're a really smart woman. You gave a great pitch and you knew your stuff. And a lot of people don't come across that way in Dragon's Den. So I was like, I have to meet her. She just sounds really cool. And that's something that you would not have gotten if you hadn't have done all of those pitches. And I have some friends who are VCs and investors, and they say that on average, that by the time a business gets funding, they've done at least 100 pitches.
Wow.
Like, you know how soul destroying that can be? And a lot of times people after 3, 4, 5 are like, oh, I'm
pitch fatigue is a thing. Pitch fatigue.
Because then it also takes you away from running your business. So that's where you have to...
Raising investment could be a full-time job. Yeah. Like, when people say that they've got investment, I'm like, oh, well done. Like, well done. But they... Like, I'm a solo founder. A lot of them have co-founders.
Yeah.
They have dedicated people to do that. Even grant. You go for a grant.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the first time I went for an Innovate UK Women in Innovation grant, because my product's great for disabilities, right? Mm-hmm. I had no idea, apart from the experience obviously I have with my dad with the physical thing, but I didn't realise... I mean, well, I've got, women, menopausal women. I've got men with prostate. I've got autistic children. It's massive for because it's a sensory, because it's made of silicone, not plastic. Yeah. And so there's no temperature change. Like, there's so many things. So I went for the Women in Innovation Award because I wanted to dedicate time to really look into how this product can help autistic children, and then various other things. And I did this no, I'm not going to say stupid. Naively, I thought that the passion I had and the knowledge I had and would be enough. And I prioritized going for this grant because I knew how much of a difference it would make, not to my business, but to the people that I could turn this product in. I did the grant and I watched all of the webinars on how to do it. And then it turns out most people have a grant writer that get it. They have a grant writer, they have a team, they're not just some single mum sitting in a thing doing her best to make Gantt charts and all the rest of it. Like, that isn't it.
But those things, again, you know, I have views on that because but also as well, I wish that they wouldn't be like that. That it would be more accessible to people, because that's the purpose of a grant, right? Not the people who have the money who can put together the big bids.
But it's the same, and it's the same with investment. Yeah. There's not many, and that's why people go to Dragon's Den.
So let's talk about Dragon's Den. So how did all of that work? Now, you were on there a couple of years ago, right? But the episode just ran recently.
Yeah. So as a timeline, I launched the product in February 2021. And Dragon's Den approached me in February 2022 and said, have you thought about applying? Which I had, because I have friends, you know, I have a little network, as I said right at the beginning. You know, I have these friends that I could call on for advice. The lady who we share a factory with, she done Dragon's Den the year that I started, so 2020. And then another friend in our group had done 2021. So I was around people. I'd literally, weeks before they contacted me, spoken to Rob from Trunky, the inventor of Trunky. And
he's the famous one that didn't get the investment.
But look at him now. And
they're kicking themselves on that one.
Of course. Yeah. But so of course it's, and I was doing a Boots pop-up, and I don't, obviously it's an online business, so I don't do in-person things. So all the things that I would get would be online. But I'd done this in-person event. God, the amount of times people say, have you ever thought of doing Dragon's Den? Oh my God. If I could have £1 for every time someone says that to me, I wouldn't need the investment, you know, like, yes, I have, but I knew from friends it wasn't that straightforward. You don't just fill out an application form, go on Dragon's Den. There's so much to think about. To go in there with the information you need to give a successful pitch. I went in there and I've pitched loads of times before that, but I pretty much forgot everything. I was writing my final pitch and doing my final numbers literally the night before, and I still, like I said, I ended up winging it, like what I said I'd do. Or if I give a talk, or if I do, because
that's why ADHD is a superpower.
Oh my God, I said that in the pitch, didn't I? I said neurodiversity, bipolar. That's what's got me here. Yeah, it isn't like learning my figures to the nth degree. I messed that up. Like I couldn't retain that information. I know how to run a business though. Yeah. But not because I've done it in school, not because I had a really tight business plan that I could go to a bank and for them to give me a loan. And then I become one of those founders that I don't have the same grit and determination because I've got a safety net. I had no safety net. So when I'm standing there doing that pitch, it's not a pitch to them being like, this is why you should invest in my business because of X, Y, and Z. Oh, financially, you're going to get this and this milestone. Blah, blah, blah. I'm doing it. I'm standing here with a business that I know will work because this is a product that people need. Yeah. And you're going to back me because I guarantee I will do everything in my power to make sure this works because it has to work. Not because the figures say, not because this graph and this, because I'm telling you I will not stop until, and that, I guess that's the difference.
And I think that's what they saw as really attractive. Now, how many of the investors made an offer to you?
but they don't show the whole thing because I was in there for an hour and a half. So you only see 10
You
minutes.
only see 10 minutes, yeah.
And even the order of it's shown. Wasn't shown in the order.
Yeah.
So Sarah had gone first, I believe. She'd given the first offer. And then Tuka, they were trying to persuade Tuka to do it, but I was like, I don't think would be a good. I know he's in the industry and stuff, but I've heard he's really ruthless and stuff, and I was really scared of Tuka. Like, he was like so lovely. Is not what you see. He was actually he gave me a hard time at first, but after he was like, I don't want to invest in you because I'd have to take too much. I think they did show that bit. But he was like, but what I want to do is I want to help you with my contacts and everything. I would rather mentor you.
Yeah.
He was so... And then I went to Peter, and Peter was like, if Sarah hadn't have given you an offer, I would have given you an offer because of you. And then Deborah said, I don't normally say this because Peter had given this really emotional thing. They didn't show it, but it was really emotional the way he was just so supportive. And I was like, that's something you hold on to for Peter Jones to talk about you like that.
Because he can be quite ruthless as well.
He was just so like, you will do this.
Amazing.
Like you will. And then Deborah was like, it's not often that I agree with Peter, but I agree with every single word he said. And I was just like, oh, thank you. So by that point, I'd had the offer from Sarah, and technically, you know, they said that they would have both invested me. And Deborah had said, I don't even have children. Because I was presenting the children. I didn't have the adult one at that time.
Okay.
And she was like, I don't even have children. And I would have. But I just don't know the industry. And that's what I said.
Yeah.
And then it came to Stephen. And then that's the bit they show when I go, it's only you. And obviously, I'd grown my business on social media.
Yeah.
I had no money even for a Facebook ad. I had no money for anything. I had no connections that most people have for businesses like mine and products like mine. So because social media, I always say, is like, that's your start off point because it's free.
Yeah.
Anyone can start an Instagram, or now it's TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok wasn't a thing when I was, otherwise I would have absolutely gone to TikTok because it's phenomenal for product-based businesses.
Well, have you met Tim, who has Hagley West watches? Have you seen his videos?
No.
So I'm going to introduce you to Tim afterwards as well, because Tim has been on our podcast too. Tim came through Dubai, and I was like, hey, Tim, come on the podcast a few months ago. Yeah. That same challenge for him, that he ended up selling his house because he needed to build the business. So he sold his house and went all in on the business. And he initially started selling these watches he had a Shopify store. Yeah. And so he was trying to do everything like through Facebook ads and all of these things. And I think he said he was doing like maybe 25,000, 30,000 pounds a year. And he said it got so bad that he was going down to the pub and trying to sell his watches. He'd be like, anyone want a watch?
Yeah.
And then he said what he did is he started sharing his story and his journey about building the business on TikTok. Yeah. And all of a sudden it became about his story linked to the brand of the watches. He spends no money on ads, completely ditched everything and has gone organic. He's got millions of followers now. Decided that he was going to try and enter the US market last year and did 1.3 million pounds in the American market. So I'm going to introduce you to, because he's based in London as well when he's not traveling. Yeah. But he does these Find Tim challenges all over the world where he'll go and sit somewhere with an iPad and they'll give clues live on TikTok and people have to go and find where he is. And then when they shout out "Love Your Journey," they'll win a watch from Tim.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like that. Super.
I've got Where's the Whizzer?
Yeah.
I have got it's like a,
But it's really interesting how he sells, and I find it's interesting.
All about the story. I tell everyone that when someone sends me their businesses, or can you look at my business, whatever, and I say, look at your social. Now, bearing in mind, I don't have a massive social media following.
You don't need a massive social media.
That's what people think, that you need to have like hundreds of thousands of things. You really don't. Dragon's Den found me, and I had. Back then, I probably had about 4,000 followers. They found me on Insta. Like that's it. A Jojo Mama Baby, my first retailer. They found me on, but one of them followed me on Instagram. And so I try and tell people, you know, they see influencers with like millions of this or that. You really don't, but it's the quality of the content.
Yeah.
People will follow, all the time you see who they're following, and they're trying to follow social media gurus, I guess is what they say. Follow, and they tell you what the algorithm's doing, or this is how many times you should post, or this is they get so bogged down with that.
Yeah.
And I say to them, they are telling you that because that is their business. They're making money out of you and mentoring you, but that is their business. You're running a business. You can't run a business and set those foundations and make it and turn that into revenue if you're spending all your time on social media. So
Totally.
You've got to have the balance where you go, I built my business on social media, so I know. And that's exactly how I did it. In my flat that I said, my little 1-bedroom flat, Mason was in everything, you know. He was in all the videos, packing the orders. I showed when I moved from the dining room table into, I'd converted an airing cupboard, and I put all the shelves in. Everyone saw that. Everyone saw every meeting I went to, every Zoom I did, every upset, every win, everything. And they came on that journey. So that's why I say to people, especially with a product-based business, okay, so they buy your product, they love your product. That's it. Why are they going to follow you on Instagram and then tell everyone else about why they need that product?
It's a story.
It's about you.
Yeah.
It's about you. That's where you get the longevity.
Yeah.
So you get your product, you make sure that product is, you know, as unique as you can make it. There's a reason why. What are your USPs and all the rest of it? But behind that, the best businesses are the ones where you really want to support that. Oh, look at that journey they've been on.
Yeah.
Like I listened just before I came out. I listened to the brand Child's Farm. Jo is in the Buy Women Built network that I'm in. She gave a talk about how she's just sold Child's Farm, but she talked about those first 4 years, and I felt like I was talking. It was her talking about my journey. You know, like she was like, I didn't pay myself for 4 years. I never knew. I right up until, you know, for years, she'd be like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my staff. In the same way, like Stephen talks about in the really early podcast, when he talks about those moments where if I don't make this point, I don't know how I'm going to pay my staff, and everything's going to, those kind of moments, right? Those are the people that have gone all in, to the point where if you're happy to not take a wage and you're happy to have a outwardly successful business that's turning over, you know, 250, a million, whatever it is, revenue, but you're not taking a wage because you're still sacrificing so that business can grow, then you've got the foundations there.
100%.
Then, and you're recording that entire journey to people that are just everyday people that use your product, or they're just interested in your story, or they've maybe thought of an idea that they want to do. Yeah. They've got a business that they would love to do, but X, Y, and Z, they're not quite there. Let's see how she does it. Let's, you know, like you become invested. So there's times when, well, as you know, I've got bipolar. So there's times where I'm not on social media for months, right? Yeah. For months. And then I'll come back and then we'll get all this message. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? And it's like I've never met those people in real life. Like there's times when I'll do an event or like I'll go to a festival or something, and then I'll meet people in person. Yeah. And I love that. I love that. I love when you meet someone that's used the product and they're like, they swear by it. They've got every color. They tell every one of their friends and all the rest of it. Like, I love it when that happens. But ordinarily with a product-based business, you have to know that you will be stuck behind a computer. You will be packing orders, or you will be. It's not glamorous, and it is all day.
It is hard work,
hard graft. So if you are prepared to do that for very little gain, like I can say, oh wow, I've come to an expo in Dubai. This is 4 years in.
Yes,
this is 4 years in.
But you're 4 years in. it is still, you're very much in business building phase,
Yeah,
but I
100%.
feel from talking to you and hearing as well what you've been telling me about your business even before we hit record is I feel that you're very close to going big, that it's all of that work. And this
Yeah.
is sometimes where entrepreneurs give up because
Oh,
it is the fear, the frustration that it's like, I'm just doing this for so long and
yeah.
I'm just sick of it. It's never going to work. But I think what people don't realize is sometimes people have done this for 5-10 years and then all of a sudden it works. But I feel like you are just about there, that you're going to go big time. Like a year from now, 2 years from now, people are going to be like, oh, Zoe, she's got that like amazing, huge company that's global. Everybody knows about the Whizzer. But what I'd like to know, so you're just available in the UK at the moment, but you are looking for international opportunities and you are looking at how you can go more global. What are you looking for? Because I also want to use this podcast because within Female Fusion as well, we have connections, businesses, people all over the world. What do you need? How can we, as other female entrepreneurs, help you get to that next level? What are you looking for?
I think that's what it is like when you, with a product-based business, it goes from when you're packing your orders yourself, which is what I've done for years. And then there's only Dragon's Den and I have a warehouse that helps. And then the next thing is that the retailers, and people always say, like I said to you before, like, people are like, why is this not on the shelves of Boots? Why can't I pick this up at the airport if I go on holiday? And that's why when I said to you the other day when we had the Richard Branson conversation, and I said, I met Richard, 17 years ago. And I said to him, I'm going to work for you one day. And now I don't, it's different. Now I want the Whizzer to be in that catalogue on Virgin Airways. And literally a week ago,
I mean, amazing, right? People could go on holidays. What a perfect thing for a holiday.
They just grab it. Like, because everyone, that's the thing. And when you have a product, everyone goes to the toilet.
Yeah.
If I tell you every person I've met, if they don't tell me a story when they've been caught out with a toilet situation, then it's, I don't think I've ever met anyone that hasn't told me about a toilet situation. You haven't yet, but now I've given you the heads up. It's okay. It's fine.
We can talk about toilets.
I'm glad. Yeah, but I've heard, you wouldn't believe the stories I hear. So I know that this is not a product. Yeah. Whether it is that you like camping or festivals, or you are used to long car journeys in this part of the world, you are, and there's a lot of laws and rules and everything. If you need to go, you're not going to go and do a wild wee here, are you?
No,
Let's face it.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do it in the back of the car with tinted windows and hidden, and make sure that your kid or you is very much. But the fact is human nature, we need to go to the toilet, but because it's such a stigmatized topic, it's so taboo to talk about going to the toilet, yet we all do it.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of the work that I'll be doing before I enter into these markets is having to break through the barrier and be like, it's okay. And I don't know whether it's a case of going down the medical route and being in pharmacies and having that medical side of it first, and then, but things like potty training, that age is more acceptable, right? So when a parent goes, that's how it led into it. And when parents using their
both sizes available now, so in different colors and all of that stuff,
even glow in the dark.
Oh, how cool.
Because potty training, or not even beyond potty training, kids that need the toilet at night, it's not sensory overload for waking up, going to the toilet, turning on the light, the noise, all the rest of it. They just use the glow in the dark Whizzer. It's there, go back to sleep. Same with camping. Who wants to stumble around looking for a portaloo in the middle of the night, falling over the tent lines or whatever? You just got the Whizzer right there. And so my customer base literally is so wide. I have a few people now that have come together that are trying to get Glastonbury to put up a Whizzer tent for women, so that women don't have to queue.
Oh yeah.
So if anyone knows anyone at Glastonbury, any events where marathons, for example, women are stuck all the time. It's always men can get away with certain things. Women can't.
Yeah.
And so there's so many avenues. It's just about, like I always say, like, if you try and do everything, you won't be able to do anything, right? And so I've always, yes, I'm well aware that my product should be on the shelves, but it's a process. People need to understand that you don't just get into a read. You need to have the funds to know that when, say for example, Boots do stock my product, I'll need to know that I can afford to pay for the quantity, the volume that they need manufactured, the shipping, which is insane now, and they're not going to pay me a penny for that until, say, if it's 60 days payment terms or whatever. I need to know that I can afford to take that risk.
Yeah.
And as a startup,
well, that's always that's so hard with startups, right?
It comes back to money. And if you haven't got the investment, and that's what I'm saying, that's why I don't pay myself, and why I don't, all these things, and why I'm so tight, and I don't have a big team, I don't have these, because to grow, you need to make sure that where you're putting that money.
Absolutely. But Zoe, I really believe, talking to and seeing what I've seen, is that you're very close. You're very, very close. And I think that you are such a remarkable woman to have gone against all of these odds and these challenges that you have faced within your life to build this business, to go through, the ideation, to create it, to do the intellectual property, and then to have this business. You're very close. It's just having those right connections. I think as soon as you land one or two of those contracts and everybody else sees it, then all of a sudden it's Zoe's going to go big time, and people will be like, oh, she's so famous. She was on Stephen Bartlett's podcast, but she started out on Women on the Rise.
There we go. Well, it sums it up. Women on the Rise. So that's, but I just hope that all the women that are thinking that it can't be done, or wondering what it takes to do it, and that it comes down to that grit and determination. How much are you willing to sacrifice? Anyone can have a lifestyle business that they have on the side, and that is fine. If you want to, like, a side hustle, that's fine. Yeah. If you want to build something that's going to be, make sure that your children, your grandchildren, you want to build
a legacy,
you have got to sacrifice a lot,
of course,
and you've got to take some huge risks. But if you can do that, and you're willing to do that, and you're willing to learn, key thing, you're willing to network, you're interested in other people, and you're interested in everything about the business journey, and you're willing to learn every single role within your business, you should be able to do. Because if that goes wrong, whether it be my Amazon or my, something done,
you need to know everything,
shipping, whatever it is, you need to know how to do that. Do not rely on anyone else. Even if you can afford to get someone to do it, make sure you know how to do it first.
A woman after my own words and heart, because I say this as well, that we're not beneath knowing how to do anything in our business. And I joke with my team as well and say that if everybody was sick one day, I have to be able to know how to do everything. And it's, and I live and breathe that within the business as well, that everybody needs to know how to do different things. And I love learning, though, like learning and knowing about your business. Doesn't mean that I'm going to be the best at SEO or Facebook ads, but, at least you understand how it works, so you know what good looks like. So when other people are doing it, you're not going to be taken advantage of either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We could talk for hours, and I think we will probably need to have a follow-up.
Part two.
We're going to have a part two, because I think when we see Zoe go big time and everybody recognizes your product, then we'll have a follow-up to see how you're doing.
I'm joining you on Necker Island.
Yeah, well, and we have lots of meetups in London as well, so I'd love to get you along to one of those too, which would be great to meet some of our members there too. But thank you for sharing your journey and your wisdom and giving up some of your time on your holiday. And thank you to your son, Mason, who has
Patience of a saint.
So patient sitting here waiting. And I think Mason needs to go experience some fun stuff in Dubai.
Oh, yes. I've got some things up my sleeve for him.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I hope I've imparted enough wisdom to...
You have.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zoe.
Tick.
Thanks. I am so passionate about scaling up businesses. I want you to have the most profitable business that you can possibly have. And that is why I delivered 10 masterclasses, my absolute favorite masterclasses that will help you scale up your business. I live delivered them, but the greatest thing is I've also packaged it together that you can access it today and get access to these 10 masterclasses that will take you through everything from financial management to creating your strategy to using events to new business development and creating your elevator pitch. Not only that, things like building your email list and creating lead magnets and freebies. All the things that you need to scale up your business. You can access it today for the special price of $97. If you go to femalefusionnetwork.com/scale up, you can see everything that's included and get immediate